Not everybody believes Ross Hodge is going to win in year one. And a lot of people are questioning the transfer portal class that has come in all lower level. Voice of Morgantown specifically wrote an article on that, which I'll be addressing on Locked On West Virginia.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. This is Locked On West Virginia. Well, we're talking basketball, man, and also some football as we get into a little bit of a time frame where it's a little off because we're playing on Friday. So there's going to be everything's going to be moved up a little bit by a day this week. So we're going to be talking about this Voice of Morgantown article. We've got a Q&A mailbag. We've got several questions in the mailbag where people ask questions as I've spoken to players this week. And we'll do final thoughts as well. But if you haven't read this article, I suggest giving it a read. It's interesting. I disagree with it. I'll explain why. But I do understand the premise. And it's an article written by Voice of Morgantown, basically saying, hey, look, I'll just read some of it. It says, West Virginia basketball appears to be following the same dangerous formula that has plagued West Virginia football for years, taking lower-level players and trying to make them Power 4 starters. And just like that with football, this recipe is bound to fail, okay? And then he goes on to talk about the roster: Jasper Floyd, Huff, Treysen Eaglestaff, Brenen Lorient, Harlan Obioha, etc. And he goes on to say what we need. He says we need proven power conference talent, elite recruits, NIL-backed difference makers. Okay. He does give them some praise. So I don't want to make it, I want to give an accurate representation of the article. So he says the talent is real, but so are the concerns. And then he goes over why. He mentions a couple players that could be good. But he finishes that up saying the Big 12 is an unforgiving league. Kansas, Baylor, Houston, and others aren't just adding good players. They're adding all conference talents, McDonald's All-Americans, transfer portal stars who are already productive at the highest level. West Virginia, by contrast, is asking mid-major stand-ups to jump into the deep end immediately without a single returning player who's already proven they can handle the grind of a Power 4 schedule. It's a massive gamble. Okay, so a couple of problems with the article that I have. Anytime you start to try to compare basketball to football, that's the first mistake. You can't do that. It's a bad analogy in general because the talent pools are different. The games themselves are different. You're talking about 22 versus 5 players, or even 11 if you go one side of the ball. So, I think it's fundamentally flawed from the start if you want to go the football route. But even still, the premise of what he's saying is you're taking lower level people and you're trying to play them at the higher level. So, obviously Treysen Eaglestaff from North Dakota, Huff from Chattanooga, Jasper Floyd and Brenen Lorient are from North Texas, where they've come over from with Ross Hodge. Harlan Obioha is from UNC Wilmington. So, he's saying these are mid-major guys that aren't going to be ready for the Big 12 meat grinder. And I don't know. I disagree with it. I'll show you guys some stuff that kind of prove what I'm talking about here in just a minute. But, I think slapping a football label on a basketball problem is always not a good way to start an article like that, just because everything after, he had some good stuff in there. Everything after that, made me, I was turned off immediately from reading that, right? Because mid-major basketball players, there are several that are better than Power 4 starters. It's just how basketball is. Basketball players develop faster. A lot of times there's just for whatever reason overlooked basketball players. And it's easier to misjudge a basketball player based on size or measurables, but they can still turn into really good players, as to where in football size, measurable speed, and all like that. Like it's pretty much you can't really get past that part of it because it's such a physical game. So, obviously there's the roster realities as well. Football scholarships cap at 85, which can balloon up to 120 players, so the talent pools and pipelines are different. Football has blue chippers, top 100. Those are really rare, but there may be 30 or 40 per cycle, you know? So I just think they often cluster at the SEC and Big Ten levels in football. Mid majors rarely produce NFL ready linemen, but basketball, they have talent. It's democratized because the AAU circuits, right? Overseas scouting, you got a lot of people from overseas coming to play basketball that enhances the pool greatly. So mid-major conferences like this, the SoCon, the Summit, the CAA, the MAC, even, there are so many good players at these levels that there's just too many to name. So, I don't think they're a gamble necessarily. I understand putting an entire team of them together sounds like a gamble, but it's all we can really do in year one scenario. We're really at a year zero scenario, if you're asking me, because they were all Darren DeVries people, right? So, at the end of the day, it's just not going to work. So, what we'll do is we'll look over some teams last year that had a lot of incoming mid-major talent. NC State, right? 2024 Final Four team. They had DJ Burns, who transferred from Winthrop. He was their emotional leader. He was their matchup nightmare. He had 21 points in the Final Four loss to Purdue. That's just one player, though, right? So, like, are there teams that had multiple? Well, Alabama had Mark Sears, who came in from Ohio in the MAC, one of the more dangerous matchups in the country, scoring machine. Grant Nelson came in from North Dakota State for them. Aaron Estrada came from Hofstra from them. They also had a couple people that came off the bench that were from mid-majors. And so, but that trio specifically were what powered Nate Oates' team to the Final Four, right? So they also had a couple Power Four players as well. So it's not 100%, Auburn's probably the best example. Janai Broom was the two-time OVC Player of the Year for Morehead State. J.P. Peegs was at Furman. He was the starter. Denver Jones from FIU. Chad Baker Mazzara, right? He came in from Duquesne. Chaney Johnson was from D2, Alabama Huntsville. So Auburn had an insane mid-major infusion, and they were the best team in the country most of the year last year, right? Florida were the SEC national champs, right? SEC and national champs. Walter Clayton Jr. may have been the best player in the country from Iona. I mean, he was really good, obviously. Elijah Martin, FAU. Sam Alexis, Chattanooga. Micah Handglaughton, Marshall. Todd Golden went out and picked up a ton of mid-major players and turned Florida into a national championship contender. So I think he's lamenting over the lack of big dollar NIL signings or all conference veterans, like, guys that are just really experienced at the Power Four level, and talks about how Kansas and Baylor are loading up while the Mountaineers are patching holes. I mean, yeah, NIL juices the portal for sure, but in basketball, it's really no guarantee. There are several NIL fueled busts as well from last year if you look around. So obviously, Darren DeVries did a pretty good job patching the holes we had last year. We would have really been able to build on it this year, but he left. And so we're in a situation where we have to do that again. So it's really not a fair comparison. So let me show you another thing here. Obviously, Eaglestaff, I think, is going to be an immense pickup for us this year, in my opinion, anyways. I really like him a lot. He's the kind of kid that, there's just, to me, there's no way he is technically a mid-major player, but I don't think he plays like one, right? I mean, he has got really good tape. Really good tape. I really like his tape a lot. And I mean, if you want to talk about really good players, I mean, Ross Hodge went out and signed a couple 4-star players, right? So it's not like there's no infusion of power forward talent on the roster. They're just not developed yet. So, like I said, there's a lot that goes into it. It's just unfortunate because we've had to start it over 2 years in a row. So, on that aspect, we are a lot like football, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, it's understandable that he would write an article like that. I just think that, for me, I disagree with it because I think you can win with mid-major players. As a matter of fact, let's pull up West Virginia's full roster here really quick because I have thoughts on a lot of the guys. So, okay. So, Brenen Lorient obviously there's no way, like, he obviously come from the FAU. He was on the FAU Final Four team. He was part of a really good team, no doubt. But I mean, if you watch that dude play, he's 6'9" and he can literally hit his head off the rim. He's a power four player. He just happens to have developed late, you know. I really like him a lot. I mean, if you ask Dusty May, he said, I did a really bad job developing Obioha. I mean, or not Obioha, but Lorient. He's like, and Ross Hodge took and developed him like gangbusters, Jasper Floyd is a tough guard. I do think that, he has some limitations, but I do think he's a really good player. Amir Jenkins, 4-star guard. I think he's going to turn into a stud. I think he'll be a freshman contributor this year. Possibly 7-8 points a game out of Worcester, Mass. I really love him. He was one of my favorite pickups of the year. We all know Huff is undersized, and so when he's on the floor, you have to account for him defensively, and that's something that a lot of people have said. But what he does on the offensive side of the ball is like almost 2-to-1 to me. What he does defensively, because he's so good at steals. Like a lot of people don't realize, but Honor Huff gets a lot of steals. So he may not be a lockdown defender face up, but he gets in the lane. Jaden Forsyth is the other 4-star guard we brought in, right? And flipped him from Xavier. He's very similar to the guard we flipped last year from Xavier. He's 6'5", 190. He's a New York guy. I really like his game. I think he can be a big-time contributor this year as well. Like, these are guys that are going to play this year. DJ Thomas, Ross Hodge gushes over DJ Thomas. He does. His tape's good. I see where he's coming from. He's 6'7", 210. He's probably going to come in and contribute earlier. Evans Barning Jr., the freshman from Toronto, obviously is somebody I'm not really too familiar with yet. I'm still learning on him. I would like to know more, but he played it in Washington, D.C. area. So, and he's 6'7", so he's got size. We'll see how he turns out. Abraham Oyedir is certainly, Oyedir. Yeah, that's it. Okay. I was listening to the little thing you can listen to when it says their name. But, I don't know what his situation is. He's 6'9", 221. He was a guy that never got any playing time last year. I don't expect that to change a lot. He does have a lot of athleticism, but that's about all he's got. I love Chance Moore, man. 6'6", 210 pounds. He's a guy, double-digit scorer last year out of St. Bonaventure, which is one of the better mid-major programs around. I really like him as an addition. Jackson Fields is 6'8", 210 pounds and played on the tournament team at Troy. I think he can contribute off the bench. He's obviously getting those pins out of his wrist. We'll see. West Virginia does have a power forward transfer in Morris Augusuk. He's from Helsinki, Finland, technically, but he played at South Carolina last year. He's a sniper. He's a good defender. He's basically one of your typical 3-and-D kind of guys. I really like his game. I think he's going to be a big contributor. He plays the guard spot. Trey Eaglestaff is the crowning jewel. Obviously, he is by far the best overall probably talent that we have, and has an NBA upside. And Harlan Obioha is down, they say 30 pounds, I think is what I read. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But I mean, if he can play more than he's capable of, like last year, because the big knock on Obioha is, but he only gives you 16 minutes a game. Where are you going to play center at the rest of the game? Well, the thing is they've dropped him down 30, 40 pounds. He's still 7 foot, 250 pounds. So he's able to play longer, which is a big deal. So if we can keep him on the floor longer, you're talking about an all Big 12 caliber center in Obioha. And I don't think he's factoring him in as much as I think he should. Because if you go watch him at UNC Wilmington, hell, for fun, let's just go look at him really quick. How much time? Well, let's go to break first. We'll do break. We'll come back. We'll watch Obioha for a second, and then we'll get to the mailbag next. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by our good friends over at QO. And look, with QO, it's pretty simple. When you want to talk about open phone, it's what they came from. It's one of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners. Formerly Open Phone, it's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just got a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that you're connected to 24/7. QO is the number one business system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through your app on your computer or phone, so no more carrying two phones relying on a landline phone. Whether you're a solo operator juggling everything or part of a larger team, QO makes it easy to stay responsive and professional. See why 90,000 business owners trust QO, formerly Open Phone. Get started and get your 20% off your first 6 months at QO.com/LockedOnCollege. That's QUO.com/LockedOnCollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, QO will port them over at no extra charge. Do it today with QO. No missed calls, no missed customers. All right, we are back. Segment 2, Crack-a-Doo, of course. I want to show you guys some couple of things on Harlan Obioha really quick that I really love. Let's see. Okay, let me pull him up now. All right, so we'll share screen really quick. For those of you listening, I'll try to describe this as well as I can. So the thing about Obioha is he's just so big, right? I mean, that's where you start with him. He's 7 feet tall, 280 pounds, but they dropped weight. We'll see what that looks like. But here's 2 minutes of tape on him at UNC Wilmington. So as you can see, here he is right here. That's pretty grainy. He's got great hands around the rim. He doesn't have to jump hard or jump very high to dunk it. Here he is at the top of the screen. He's going to pick. He's going to roll, and he's wide open, and he's really hard to block because he's so big. Look at him. He's got a guy sealed off right here. Great rebounding. So he's got that going for him. Here you can see nice defense, great shot blocking timing. Here he is in okay. I was wondering what that was going. So he's playing off the ball here. So you can see he comes down he flashes at the high post. He doesn't get the ball. So what happens? This guy has to come over and help, and he just flashes down wide open, right? So the defender comes over to help. He's wide open. I mean, that's an easy bucket for anybody, but once again, wide open under the rim. He's an easy bucket because he's so big. This is a great play here if you go back and pay attention. So the ball's coming from here. It's, this is a play meant for him. He's posted up right here. The ball's going to swing to the ring for an extra angle. He's got the guy. I mean, look how much bigger he is than this guy here. He's got him walled off, and that thing goes right in there, and then it's a drop step and a dunk. Very good footwork, right? Another play here where he's got good footwork off the inbounds play. Or no, it's not off the inbounds play. It's just in the flow in the offense. Right here. Just he's got a guy walled off, one dribble and up. Nice little see his hands are what make him really good too, because that's a no look pass. He was ready for it and a dunk. But where he really is going to help us is in these situations here, rebounding. He's going to put a body on a guy. He's going to get inside. He's going to get opposite. And he's going to get a lot of rebounds for us. His numbers should skyrocket if he can play, even 22 or 23 minutes a game. Because I think he was at UNC Wilmington, I think he was at 15 or 16 minutes a game, something like that, because he's so big, so he has a hard time playing a bunch of minutes. But, I mean, look at that play there. That's exactly what I want to talk about. If he can get better at this part of the game, West Virginia's in for a real treat this year. You're obviously posted up. He's got a guy right on his back. And look at the footwork here. Boom, up underneath. Beautifully done. I mean, that's so gorgeous. Look how close he is to the rim here. He's got this dude basically under the basket because he's backed him down, sealed him off underneath the basket. In the Big 12, it's going to be harder to do this, but you can see how it works for him. And there is a nice little touch around the rim. It's the first one that hadn't been to dunk in a while. Now, see, there's that footwork again. I'll tell you, man, kind of like Tonka a couple years ago from that was on West Virginia's team. I would consider looking at on the offensive line, maybe. I'm joking, but I mean, here's the mid-range. So that's a beautiful mid-range jumper. If he can make that consistently, you're talking about a really awesome opportunity for him. So, he's not an elite athlete by any stretch of the imagination, but he's got skills. He's got the old man type game for sure. So anyways, just wanted to show you guys that. I thought it was some interesting tape, even though it's grainy, it shows you what he can do. And he's going to be a huge part of this team. I think our ceiling will be dictated by how good he can be. So that'll be it. Because if he can rebound, then we just need, Obioha will be able to rebound. He's already proven that. He's 6'9", 220 pounds, and can hit his chin on the rim almost. He's that much of an athlete. All right, let's get to the mailbag. As I told you guys, I've spoken to some players this weekend since the game. Got mixed results on some of it. It's an interesting time right now. I mean, there are people that are, I don't want to say unhappy, but there are dudes people are discouraged with how the season's gone. I mean, if you want an honest opinion, but I would say, there are guys that want to play more. I think that's the biggest thing I heard. But anyways, I want to talk to Glass first. Glass has been a very respectful Utah fan. His name is Glass Bennett. He asked the question, can you explain how I just got done with the weekend in Morgantown and it lived up not only to expectations, but it exceeded them. I was told we were mad we had to go to Morgantown, but I had a hell of a time and spent the whole weekend in West Virginia, not just Morgantown. He's saying Utah fans love Morgantown, which is great. I'm glad they did. But I was replying to a certain sect of their fans that weren't happy about it, and mostly to some of the dudes that were trolling. You know what I mean? That was really all that was. It was just content. Like, I think people take it so seriously, but I wasn't necessarily trying to come in on the entire fan base as a whole, but I guess how else can you when you do something like that, First real question is, who doesn't go into the portal at the end of the year? That's a hard question. I would say I don't know. The best way to answer that is I don't know. I'd have to look at the roster. Let's try to answer that. So I would say Scotty Fox would be the first person that comes to mind as somebody I don't foresee going to the portal unless they decide to move another direction with the team. Um, you know, I don't know if you want to keep Jaheim White after 2 straight surgeries or not. I mean, maybe you do. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm certainly not saying that he don't deserve it or anything. I love Jaheim, but you have to ask that question: does he get injured too much? Um, Cam Vaughn obviously is number one on the list. I think you do whatever you have to do, whatever you can to keep him, whatever that is. You give it to him. He can be an NFL receiver someday, guys. We just need to work with him and give him an actual quarterback that can throw him the ball. Max Brown can come back next year. I don't know if you keep him for backup. You know, I think Nico's probably gone. I think Darrell Williams is gone. We haven't seen him at all this year. Curtis Jones is somebody I would hold on to for sure if I could. Like whatever you got to do, hold on to him. Let's see. Khalil Wilkins, obviously, you want to try to hold on to. Probably want to try to hold on to Ben Cutter. He's looked pretty good. I know he's asking me like who I think will or won't go. I'm telling you who I think will. So Zay Jennings is probably out of here. I haven't seen him at all this year, and I expected a lot more out of him. So we'll see. I would do my best to hold on to Nick Taylor. He was one of the bright spots in the game the other day. The App State transfer. Dior Hubbard, I think you got to try to keep. He looked good in the game. I was very impressed with him at times. He played well. I think you got to try to keep Sincere Bowers for sure. I mean, he's only going to get better. You got to you better hope to hold on to Rodney Gallagher. I think that's for sure. You want to hang on to him for sure. A lot of your freshmen you want to keep, right? I mean, there's no reason to get rid of them unless they just haven't panned out. That we don't know about that. I would hold on to. Let's see. I would hold on to Katzer. I mean, I would like to see him. He's one that I want to see play. He deserves to play. Any other major names that I think won't stay? It's really hard to predict because even the guys that I talk to aren't going to tell me that, right? I mean, they're not going to let me know that much. I mean, maybe one or two would if I pressed, but I'm not going to press. Other than that, I think that's about it. I would probably try to hold on to Oxley. All the freshmen that you want to keep, I'm okay with for the most part. I'm surprised we haven't seen Taylor Brown this year. I was really expecting him to make some sort of impact, along with Corey McIntyre. I don't know why we haven't seen him at all. Maybe he's injured again. If that's the case, I don't know. You've got nothing but seniors on the O-line. You've got Haslam, who is a junior. You got Isosa, who's a redshirt freshman. You've got to try to keep him. Obviously, Robbie Martin and those guys are no-brainers. You want to try to keep those. I mean, you brought him in for a reason. But, yeah, there's a lot of guys on here that you want to keep. I don't know how many you can, and I don't know how much you're willing to pay to keep some of these guys, but it's a good question. Number 2 is this person's got three questions. Bad Moon was the person that asked that question, which is a Ute fan. R.P. Roberts, 1958. Number 1, who should quarterback the offense? Number 2, why is the defense 89 points allowed in the last 2 games so bad? Number 3, why should we think West Virginia has the NIL resources to compete? Okay, R.P. Roberts. So who should quarterback the offense is a good question. I'll be okay with either guy, Khalil Wilkins or Jalen Henderson, playing next week. But I think because it's on the road in Provo, you probably go with Henderson to start. see how it looks. I think you figured some things out with your offensive line at the end of that game with Agbo on the right side. I felt like he did some really good things, but once again, we know it was against maybe a Utah front that was backing off, or at the very least had made some subs. So it's hard to tell what you really have until you play him, but I would say he's earned some playing time. But, if you're going with Wilkins, it's going to be a one-dimensional kind of game plan. You're going to be moving the pocket. You're going to be throwing it when he's running left a lot. He's not going to stand in the pocket and make a bunch of throws unless they're deep. And then you're going to run the ball. So is that something you're comfortable with? Obviously, Henderson is he an elite thrower of the ball? No, but he can throw it better than Wilkins. And I know another thing is like everybody lived with Nico for 5 or 6 games. I think Henderson's deserved more than a half. It's just my 2 cents. But let's see. The other question on there was, why has the defense given up so many points the last 2 games? It's pretty simple. I think it is anyway. Couple different things. Number one, the level of competition has gone up, right? You've gone from Robert Morris, Ohio, and Pitt to Kansas and Utah. Both those offenses are better than Pitt's offense. So that's a reason. Beyond that, obviously the offense hasn't performed. And I'll throw this word out there one more time. If you guys weren't here the last couple of days, I've got a word that I've been using to describe what's going on with the defense, which is attrition, the action or process of gradually reducing the strength or effectiveness of someone or something through sustained attack or pressure, which basically means our defense has been asked to do way too much this far in the season, right? I think a lot of the guys are beat up. I think they've been on the field a lot. And also there's some poor technique involved. Sure, it's not perfect at all. But, I mean, at the end of the day, like, this defense has been asked to do so much, and they've stepped up a lot. And I think they've just finally caved in here a little bit the last couple games. It's kind of how it looks to me. So, and Kansas had 2 weeks to prepare, so that didn't help. Why should we think we have the NIL sources to compete? Well, I mean, Rimbaker said it, right? We're going to be in the top tier of NIL spending in the Big 12. Is that enough to compete? I hope so. It better be. I would like to know the raw data on that. I would love to know the fresh numbers on that, but I don't. So I'll say this. It has to be outside the cap spending. If you're only spending up to the cap, you'll only be able to do so much. You have to be able to spend outside the cap, in my opinion, between $7 and $10 million. I don't know if you can do that. I have no clue. But I think that's what you have to be able to do. You have to be able to spend up to the cap, and then you have to figure out a way to come up with money outside of the cap through NIL ventures to get extra. If you can't do that, then, I don't know that it's going to matter. But they have said the top funding tier in the Big 12, which is top 5. And I don't know what the top 5 in the Big 12 are spending. And certainly the top 3 are way ahead of the top other two of the 5. So BYU, Texas Tech, and on some levels, Arizona State, I think. I'll have to recheck that, but since they won last year, I think they got some big push. Let's just go Texas Tech and BYU for now. They're on a whole new level because BYU's got religious money. It's just the truth. They've got billions of dollars. They don't really care. I mean, it's just they've got so much money from the Mormon church that they can compete with anybody or anything when it comes to that. And Texas Tech has a billionaire that's willing to finance them, much like Oregon and Nike. So West Virginia, we have King Kendrick, but he's not willing to finance us to that level, it looks like. He helps. And we have Pat McAfee, but is either one of those guys going to say, here's $20 million for this year outside the cap to spend? I'm not going to say that. I wish to God it would happen one time for us. but it's not. It's so far anyway. All right. Last question here. Actually, let's go to break. We'll come back and we'll finish the questions. This episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting, even when you've got a little something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com today to join FanDuel, the app, and get started. All right, we are back. So let's read another couple questions off, and then we'll get out of here. How's team morale from the Sherm? The SH3RM, the Sherm. It's good, actually. I think they're from who I've spoken to, that was the number one question I wanted to know, because my thing is like, okay, is the buy-in waning at all? No, it's not. These guys they're 2-3. They're not 0-5. Okay. So they realize that they've been outgunned these past couple weeks, and it does do something to your confidence, but that doesn't mean they're not going into BYU with the mindset to win the game. As a matter of fact, that's what I was told. They feel like they fare and matchup wise much better to BYU. This is what I was told by two starters. They feel like they match up with BYU better than they did Utah or Kansas, because BYU is a grind it team. You know, they got a quarterback that can run around. They've got a good running back in LJ Martin. They got one good receiver in Chase Roberts. They do a pretty good job getting their guys open and stuff, but generally they're not blowing people away. They've got an elite defense, top 10 defense in the country. So our challenge is, you know, can you get to 21 or 24 points in this game? You know, because I think our defense is capable of hanging in there. And then finally we get a bye week, you know, and we need it. You know, if you can win this game against BYU, get to 3-3, hell, man, you know, who knows what you can fix over the next 2 weeks, you know, and then you know, it could be a whole new season, right? We can win this game. You'd be looking at that like, oh man, maybe they've turned a corner. So that's how they're coming at it. I'm not saying, you know, as fans, I understand that you're going to think like there's no chance we're going to lose. If you're in that locker room, you literally can't think that way. I mean, would you want somebody on your team thinking that way? I would be pissed if I heard somebody thinking that way. Simu Nation, have you spoken to Cam Bond or any of the Jack State guys who were 0-3 and then things flipped for them? What were the biggest takeaways for them as to what happened to make the switch, and do they think any of that is happening here? Who have I spoke to? I haven't spoken to Cam outside of a couple conversations. Fred Perry I've spoken to, but not about that. Bowie I've spoken to as well. Let's see. I don't think I've spoken to any of them about the conversations like what you're asking me specifically. That just wasn't what I was thinking about whenever I spoke to him. Let me see here, though. All right, so with Bowie, hold on. This was our conversation with Bowie, my conversation with Bowie. So I haven't spoken to him since January. But when we did talk, you know, it was basically just telling me who reached out and stuff like that. So, but yeah, no, we've only spoken a couple times. Trying to remember if there's anybody else that I've spoken to from there, the Jack State crew. I don't think so. Not on that level. So I don't have a great comparison to make there. But you know, a lot of the time there's a dialogue going, you can keep it going. Those guys specifically, I just haven't talked to a lot. Cam is very private. He hasn't really wanted to talk much. Fred Perry will talk. But I don't like to bother him a lot. I do want to address one other comment before we get out of here. Somebody I had respect for, I still have respect for. I don't understand why he would come at me this way, but it's Whitey Williams. He said, dude, leave the effing kids alone. Talking about me reaching out to players, I guess. Like I told him in the comment, first of all, I don't go to your channel or show or anything and tell you what to or how to do anything. I think he's a former player, but I've obviously done NIL deals with a lot of these players, Carson Lee, Xavier Bosley. I've done NIL deals with like Sincere Bowers, Cannon Katzer. So I have ongoing dialogue with some people. It's not like I'm just bothering them out of the blue. It's like I have their numbers in my phone to text in some cases, like Reed Carrico or Chase Wilson. I have their numbers. I can text them. Doesn't mean I do. But point is, I don't like this narrative that I'm just some creepy dude that bothers the players. It's like, there's an ongoing dialogue. I may not speak to a guy for a month, or like Bowie. I haven't spoken to him since January, but could I send him a message and say, hey, man, I love that run you had Saturday, 80-yard run. Congrats, whatever. It wouldn't be weird if I did that, but I didn't, obviously. So I don't understand where you're coming from there. It's just like, man, just live and let live, I don't know. I don't really like to tell other people how to do anything. Will RG3 give our media the cold shoulder? That's funny. Vision says, do the players think they can turn this around? If so, why? If not, will they try to stay and build a better program? That seems to be a lot of the questions that fans want to know. I just don't have a clue whether our players are going to stay or not. There's so much season left. Like, what if they just saying, I'm not saying they're going to do this, but what if they turn it around? What if they win 3 or 4 more games and win 7 games and it's not all that bad? They had a decent season, right? What's the impetus for people to leave? Were they expecting to win 10 games this year? Pretty much everybody knew what they were signing up for. It was year 0 or year 1. And you're probably not going to be a national championship contender in year 1. So, I think for the most part, players knew what they were signing up for. They knew you were signing up for a situation that was going to be hard. And it's hard right now. And I think they'll respond as hard as they can. The horses might not be in the stable, but we're going to try. We're injured bad. That has a lot to do with some of the stuff. Would it not been nice to have Sincere and a couple other guys or Jaheim? Hell yeah, it would be. What would our season look like if we had Jaheim White or Ty Edwards and Jalen Knighton? Those 3 alone would make an enormous difference. You could do all kinds of stuff offensively with them. It's just not fair they won't use them. Like I said earlier, they might not use these for excuses, injuries, but I will, because they deserve some break for that. It's not like this is year 11, like Utah. Utah had 3 or 4 guys go out the other day, but this is year 20 something for Whittingham. They better have a roster full of guys ready to roll. Let's just keep believing in Rich Rod and see what happens. If we look up in 2 years or 3 years and he hasn't won, we can have that conversation. But I'm not going to do it after 5 games. It's not happening. There are people that will. I'm not the guy. I'm a Rich Rod guy, and you guys know that. Spot the ball, hold the rope. I'm pissing hot, the whole thing. Hopefully you guys are too. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen, and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We talk about your team, the Mountaineers, every single day. Make sure you check out the Voice of Morgantown's article. I don't want to I did a video on it. I'm most certainly, I want to, at least point you that direction. Although I disagree with it out of respect. So hopefully you guys don't mind. I'm probably going to go ahead and jump off here, but I do appreciate you guys so much as always. And I will see you guys in a little bit. I'll do another video today at some point, I'm sure. There's a lot to talk about. So we'll be back later. I'll see you then. Q Country Roads, we're out.